Um, Good evening, everyone. So happy to welcome everyone for today's webinar. So today we have a great guest with us today, Haro Wiersma, who is also our new member of our organization, and we have a quite exciting topic to discuss today. So before we start, can you let us know if you can hear us all right? Is video quality is okay? Just give us like thumbs up. Great, people can hear us. That's amazing.
Perfect.
Yeah. So before we start, we'll briefly share some guidelines for the call. So please use chat and the Q&A section to ask us questions. Feel free to raise your hand if you got any like questions you would like to ask, and we'll enable microphone for you as well. So use the chat section for conversations as well. So with that, I will let Haro Wiersma present his topic and kick off the presentation. So Haro, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much. Happy to see that we have a nice group of people that are interested in this topic. Data governance in an agile at scale organization. We're putting the good, the bad, and the ugly, also known as the lessons from a practical implementation. And I hope that a lot of questions will come afterwards as well. So the agenda is I will quickly present myself and then we'll dive into the world of agile at scale and the Spotify model, the relationship of agile at scale and the DMBOK 2 from DAMA, what parallels can we create. Then we'll go into the successes and benefits. We'll discuss the challenges and pitfalls, but also the bad side, the worst case scenarios, and the recommendations that came out of this project. So who am I? My name is Haro Wiersma. I was born in the Netherlands. I spent my time now in Switzerland and in Portugal. And I've been working like about 25 years with data. I started as an Oracle database administrator in 1998 with version 8.0 and 7.2 even. And the last 15 years, I've been focusing on the topic of data strategy and data governance to really work on the business side of data. I work as an independent or freelance consultant, and I'm very technology agnostic, like Dama is as well. And I've worked with amazing customers like IKEA, Volvo, Vodafone, Lloyds Bank, Johnson & Johnson, UBS Bank, etc. I am CDMP Master Certified. I'm waiting for the last confirmation, but that should come in the coming week. And in the last weeks, I've also made an artificial intelligence governance certification, because I see that in the future we'll have a very strong parallel between those two worlds. And as Alexander already said, I'm a member of the Dama Ukraine chapter because I have a very strong personal and business ties to Ukraine, and I'm there quite often as well. So my focus is business value and a strong management buy-in and data quality. And like the last sentence says, data quality, data quality, data quality, and wait, data quality. I think that is the aim that we all should have when we're working with data governance, to bring the business value in focus and focus on that, and lesser on the technology. So for those who are not aware what agile at scale exactly is, or the Spotify model, it is basically built on these 5 main focus areas. The smallest area, and in a regular classical organization you would call that a team, is a squad, and the squads are autonomous entities or teams that are working on a clear mission. For example, customer onboarding. And the cross-functional part is that both business and IT, sometimes even finance or legal people are brought together in this squad. So we don't have an IT side of the house or a business side of the house anymore. It's all combined in these small squads. And they are focusing on really fast and efficient delivery of functionalities into the technology platforms and the organization. So it's both a process and a technology part where they're working on. These squads, they come together in tribes. For example, a tribe focusing on sales and marketing, and they enable the cross collaboration, the cross squad collaboration within the organization, ensuring that people can share knowledge, align their business goals, their delivery goals, and also focusing on certain domains of the organization. Over these tribes, we have chapters, and chapters are focused on skills. So you could have a database chapter, you could have a legal chapter, or a chapter focusing on finance, procurement, or certain business cases like that. And these chapters, they have a chapter head that is again focusing on that specific part of technology, process, or organization. And across the guilds and the tribes, there's a possibility of creating chapters and tribes. There's a possibility of creating guilds for shared interest. And this is where our wonderful DMBOK2 thought process comes around the corner. As when we work with the topic of data governance, data quality management, reference data, or master data management, it is basically connecting people throughout the whole organization with a shared interest of having one version of the truth in master data management, or enabling the organization with the right reference data, or having the single source of truth with a master data management approach. The emphasis from the Spotify model is really a cultural one and lesser on processes. So the company that I'm talking about is a company in the energy market mainly in Germany, but they have locations all over Europe, and they are not focusing on processes, but more on business capabilities, a business capability marketing, or a business capability customer support, and that kind of things. So how does it look like, these descriptions? Let me put my pointer on. Where's my point? Here. We have the chapters that are, or the squads that are vertical, and they are focusing on a specific part of the creation of IT or business. Then we have the tribe connecting the different squads. We have the chapters as horizontals creating the matrix organization, and the guilds, as you see, is connecting cross-tribe, cross-squad, and cross-chapter. And this is a very impactful possibility to, for example, create something like regulatory compliance or data governance, what we're talking about now. Important is that this is not only an IT part. A lot of organizations in their IT department are working in agile structures, but this agile at scale collaboration model is really across the whole organization, So in a squad can be the product owner can, for example, be a developer or an architect of a certain piece of information. There can be a database administrator in it. There can be a finance expert because he knows the business side. And there can be somebody that connects the dots from a user experience part to build a piece of code. So it's really business and IT connected. How does this work from a DAMA perspective? Of course, our wonderful DM Bok is supporting a very agile way of working, scalable and adaptive data governance, enabling squads to do their work. But also, one of the things that is very important is that we create a central stewardship so that we know who has the responsibility for changes and improvements, with a clear ownership in the organization as well. The cross-team knowledge sharing is, of course, something within data governance where 80% change management, I always say, and 20% technology. And especially the knowledge sharing. Why do we do projects like data governance or programs or business capabilities like data governance is very important, especially if we look at the piece of training. Data literacy is an important piece of the puzzle for our data governance initiatives. Our processes that are set are standardized, or like I like to call them, more harmonized, because standardized is often very rigid, but we can adapt them to the needs of the organization. And especially the last point, the continuous improvement thought process is very, very important from a data governance perspective, because it's not a one-time approach. What we're doing, quite often companies think that they can do it one time and then it's there. But the continuous improvement shows us, of course, that we have to keep working on our data quality, on the availability, the security, etc. If there are any questions, feel free to write in the chat or raise your hand. Happy to answer questions in between as well. I see that somebody writes. Let me. At what team size does the agile scale model begin to add value? You write IT departments. It's like I said, not only for IT departments. This customer was in Germany about 4,000 people in total, and we saw that quite a few of the squads were very, very small, like squads of 4, sometimes 3 people. So I would say it's organizations of 5,000 people plus to be able to have the advantages of what agile scale is able to deliver. So what are the challenges from a data governance perspective if we look into the Spotify model or the agile scale model? The first one is the lack of contextualization. When we think about data quality or master data management in specific, we would like to create from a data governance perspective that as high up in the tree as possible, so that all operational processes have the benefit of using the best data possible. In an agile at scale or Spotify model-driven organization, each squad makes decisions for themselves. So it can be that if you don't set up your data governance organization in a agile at scale organization in the right way, that squads can make decisions about data quality, improvement or not improving them, not where you would prefer them to do that. I normally like to do data quality management and master data management in the source systems, in the operational start of the data, or in a centralized data lake, data warehouse approach, to ensure that from there on everything is good. If you do it somewhere halfway in the process, you have better data at one point, but all the processes in downstream of there don't have the context anymore for that one squad. So it's very important that in the tribe structure, data governance initiatives are being discussed very, very clearly, and that there's also a veto right from the tribe lead to be able to say, okay, we should do it here. And that's the second part, the no end-to-end process focus. The problem of an agile at scale organization is that, like I said, each squad and each tribe is able to do their own priorities. And in that way, they sometimes are not aware what happens before them and what happens after them. And in that sense, it's sometimes challenging to bring that in. The inadequate agility, which is quite funny in an agile at scale organization, is that as each squad and each tribe has their own priorities, sometimes there are waiting lists from people that need to be able to use data from a downstream or an upstream tribe or squad. So that sometimes limits the possibilities within the organization. The resistance to change, I've seen that very clearly in this organization, that people went already through so much change that it was very difficult to bring the value of data governance in that new structure for them specifically, for them personally, was very difficult. So we really had to take them by the hand and guide them through those changes and those discussions, and that took quite a long time to be able to enable that. And the misalignment with the business objectives, as in this organization, the yearly business objectives also changed. Sometimes the squads and the tribes didn't know exactly what was expected from them, and especially from a data governance perspective, where we were walking basically on the sideline or on the sidewalk next to the road of all the other development activities. Sometimes it was difficult to align that with them. So our data governance approach within this organization was very, very agile. We went through 8 different iterations. We started with a very classical approach with a data governance council with named data owners and data stewards. We had to change that because the organization didn't allow us to build up that rigid approach that data governance quite often needs, with policies, with guidelines, with rules, to ensure that our data quality and our master records were in the best. So the key principles stayed in the basis, similar to DAMA and the Data Governance Institute approach, but we had to come away from the classical structures of councils and data governance office and a single team that was responsible for building this up. We decided to build a data domain-driven linkage between the business capabilities the tribes, the squads, the processes, and the data, because it was very unclear what data was used in what process for what business capability. So basically, we were doing enterprise architecture there. And I think everybody that has experience with data governance knows that quite often we're doing the work for the enterprise architects to ensure that we are able to do our work from a data governance perspective. So this evolution in the implementation made us go from basically a fully industry standard approach to a fully customized approach for this customer, but in a way that it was still recognizable that when a new employee would come in, that they still would understand what was there. We decided to go for 2-week sprints instead of longer sprints. The organization itself was running in 4- and 6-week sprints, depending on where in the organization they were. And we were focusing on 3 specific data domains. I will come back on that data a little bit later, to ensure a broader organizational reach. We wanted to create like a lighthouse approach where the results and the value for these 3 data domains could be used to showcase that to the rest of the organization and be able to talk to more people in it. We were talking, like I said, an organization of about 4,000 people, so it was quite difficult to get everybody there. I see here a question: how do you see which approach model more suitable for main structure data governance based on 10 processes, or federated data governance based on data mesh? Let's take that discussion in the Q&A. I think that's a little bit longer discussion, and I would like to get a little bit more information what you mean. So let's take that after. So let's start with the good. The positive is always good to start off with, and we'll end with some positives as well. The wider reach that we were aiming for, based on the data domain approach, the data domains were product, vendor, or supplier, depending on from which worlds of ERP systems you come, and submetering were the data domains that we were focusing on. And we really brought this end-to-end process thinking into the organization. Again, a lot of enterprise architecture there, but the people needed to understand the relationship between what they were doing in their squad compared to the tribe and compared to the business capability that they were working on. And that was something that was not very clear for a lot of people. And that enabled us to talk really to people throughout the whole organization, and not only to, for example, a specific IT team or a specific product team. Because in Agile at Scale, business and IT comes together, like I said before. So we were able to really create these line of knowledge. The insights, the clear definitions of data domains and subdomains was very, very important within this customer, as, for example, they didn't have a clear understanding what is a product. A product from a marketing perspective was something different than from product development perspective, than from a service and support perspective. We used there a very clear business glossary where we linked also the data with the responsibilities and the processes. We did that in a Microsoft-based platform, and in that way it was available to everybody from the Teams application. And we did every 3 months a data governance maturity survey where we really were showing where we needed to focus on for the coming 3 months, the coming quarter. And what we included there was a confidence score. So we were not only looking, is something available or not, but how confident are people to answer these questions as well. We had like control questions built into our survey to understand is the literacy of the people around this topic enough so that we can really move this forward as well. The challenges and pitfalls of this, we got notified by the CEO that was the driving force behind the agile at scale approach, that we were not allowed to create any additional governance roles beyond what was already in the agile playbook. So we had to create the data governance roles as part of responsibilities within the product owner, developer role, etc., that we already had. And that was quite challenging, because these people already, as you all probably had in their 40-hour week already, 100% capacity used, and then we had to bring these additional tasks into the organization. Also, we were not allowed to create data governance with an enforcement. So we were not allowed to call it policies or rules. We were only allowed to call it guidelines. And that, of course, creates a less powerful data governance approach than when you're really able to create these policies. We had quite a bit of prioritization issues because of the quarterly goals that each squad and each tribe has. The data governance was quite often deprioritized, and we had to hard sell really these data governance benefits to the squads for them specifically. So we really had to go into what is this squad doing to be able to link the benefits of data governance to their squad. But again, quite often blocked by the conflicting squad priorities. Then the worst case scenarios, the data ownership role, like it is defined by the Damadi and Bagatu, is not really well aligned with the agile at scale approach, where the ownership should be transferred across different squads or across different tribes. And in this organization, the guild approach was not implemented and not available yet. So we were really challenged how to bring this data ownership into the organization. Also, the data custodian approach, where one person or a group of persons has the responsibility for a certain system, is quite difficult to bring that in. We brought those responsibilities into the product owner role on tribe level. So several tribe owners became the data owners to ensure that we had this top-down approach as well. The product owner was responsible for the data quality and the mastering tasks within their tribe, and we tried, with the information that we created from an enterprise architecture perspective about the processes, to integrate this into the squads that were responsible for the creation of the data. We had the slogan, "You create it, you own it," and that helped quite good to bring the data ownership for data quality and mastering as close to the source systems as possible. The ownership is quite often, or you have a system ownership, or where is it created physically, quite often in a sales or in a customer support organization. So we decided that this ownership would lay in the squad responsible for the system and the process creating the data. So not in the customer care or in the sales organization, but in the squads that is responsible for the system. So the recommendations out of these good, bad, and ugly. In such an organization, it's very important to have this guild approach to be able to use data governance as a business capability across the organization. The way how we implemented it was maybe to start off with possible, but when the maturity grows in the coming years, they have to create a guild to ensure that all the tasks and responsibilities are done on a regular basis. The enabling and the authorization of the squads in their roles enhances the data quality and the data governance. And that's really in this horizontal capability that I showed earlier, with the guidelines and the policies. We have to be able to bring that as close to the source system as possible. And data literacy is very important. We've started to build e-learnings for these different squads and tribes on data ownership, on data stewardship, on data quality, master data management, and data governance in general, to ensure that everybody understands the value of the data. Because quite often it was said, like, yeah, it doesn't really matter that a sales guy has to look 10 minutes to find a specific record. Otherwise, they don't have anything else to do. And that kind of thought processes becomes more and more important, of course. So as a conclusion, before we take time for some questions and answers, the agile skill provides benefits, but requires absolute strong alignment to ensure a structured data governance approach. And the balance between agility and data quality needs a strategic approach, because otherwise you will have certain squads or tribes that are doing data quality management, but the results are not available for the whole organization. And the data domains shouldn't have a too wide scope, because otherwise you need so much capacity within the organization to build up these roles and responsibilities. So it's better to have, if you start maybe in an SAP related organization, to have a data domain business partner with some subdomains for customer, employee, and vendor, then to go even deeper into the different kinds of customers already, because otherwise it won't have the value that it needs. So any questions? I see a question from Pavlo. Were the data management tools predefined, or were they selected as a project progressed? That was, I think, also a question that Alexander already had. We used open metadata as the tool of choice from a data quality and a data catalog perspective. We did the data quality part in Snowflake, so there was a direct connector between open metadata and Snowflake. So we didn't measure the quality in the source systems, but the data quality improvement initiatives were done in the source systems, but it was easier to integrate it from a Snowflake perspective. And for the rest, we were using an enterprise architecture tool integrated in Confluence. It's a BPMN.io derivative. It's a free tool that integrates there. So that was our tool set for the initial integration. Then there was the question in regards to the domain structure. In an agile at scale organization, I would go for a more federated data governance approach, but it is quite a dilemma how to set it up in the right way. In this customer, we had the problem that we were not allowed to create the additional roles and responsibilities. If we would have done that, we would have gone for a full-blown federated data governance approach, probably on business capability level. So not even on data domain level, but on business capability level, we would have organized that. But that was unfortunately in this organization too early. So maybe in a year or two, that would be possible. Any other questions? Also allowed to speak them up. You don't have to write them.
I would like to know about the ROI on data governance initiatives for this particular client. So if you could share a couple of details. Have you done this for this client, and if you've had any return on investment calculations, what's your approach?
So ROI on data governance is always quite a difficult topic. On one side, companies see data governance as overheads, but if you have the possibility of starting to talk to the different parts of the organization, it is quite good to create a return on investment calculation for it. Let me share here, as I was prepared for this question, an Excel file that I've used in the past. What you see here is a value creation plan for 3 years. We have here three master data domains. We have the customer healthcare organization, the customer healthcare provider, and products. And we have different categories of value creation. So we have new or improved business opportunity, we have cost saving, and we have increased productivity. And for each of these categories, we have a benefit analysis and a likelihood of occurrence within the coming 5 years. And then to go into more details, let me go into the increased productivity part. So this is a master data management project, was this, where sales managers across EMEA took a lot of time to find the right contact details from potential customers, leads, and opportunities. So the calculation here is that we had 1,000 sales persons all over EMEA, and the information that we got, that was about 10% of the time these sales persons were looking for the right data within different systems. So 4 hours per week times 48 hours, that's 192 hours per year. Forrester told us that with a good master data management approach implementation, in the first year, we could have a time saving of 40%, going up to 50% in the third year. So we could do a calculation there, the average salary from a sales rep, and then the productivity rate in it, also an assumption. With a risk adjustment of 15%, we came to an increased productivity in the first year over the whole of EMEA of $816,000, and the second year 900, and the third year just over $1 million. So in the 3 years, saving of 2.7 million. The same thing with cost saving. We had 25 data stewards working on it. The compensation, I will quickly go over this, but in that way, we also had a 5 million business case here, and those numbers you see back here. So the value creation of this project, Project Duco, like we called it, was about 15 million over 3 years. And in that sense, we got approval. The project cost was 3 million, so it was a good return on investment.
Yeah, these are some decent numbers, and I know that Gartner has estimated that in US, companies lose $15 million on average due to poor data quality. So you can imagine how much money would they be able to spend on some other important initiatives. And my question also was about your approach to measuring data governance maturity. So have you used any industry standard model? Have you created your own one? You mentioned you have some tailored approach for this particular client.
Yeah, so there are maturity calculation models from different sources. I think there are 7 or 8 large ones. What was missing for me, like I mentioned in the presentation as well, is the confidence of people answering those questions. Quite often there are questions like, is there something on which level is there a tool or a process or an availability to work with data governance? But how confident are you to answer these questions? So together with the University of Applied Sciences in Zurich, we created our own maturity model based on Data Governance Institute baseline, basically. So the 5 levels of maturity. Most models have 5 levels, but and they're not that far apart from each other, to be honest. But we built this specifically so that we could have a little bit insight in the participants' mind and measure that as well as part of our KPIs.
That's great insight. Thank you, Haro. Any other questions from our participants? So I think there are no questions so far. So I would like also to share some things that first of all, please after this webinar fill the feedback form to help us improve and provide you with even better content in the future. So like it won't take that long, like just up to 5 minutes of your time. This will help us be better in terms of the content. All right, seems like there are no questions. In which case, I'm happy to thank you, Haro, for such an amazing presentation. I was personally so excited about the topic. I know that data governance is a complicated topic, especially when it comes to organizations who cannot enforce policies and would like to move fast and break things, but they do realize the need for data governance, and this is a cool experience how you combine it. So thank you for sharing this knowledge with us.
A pleasure.
And I would like to thank you everyone for attending this webinar today. So happy evening to all of you, and stay tuned for our upcoming webinars. Follow our page, link things.
Thanks. Have a great eve. Bye.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Yes, bye-bye.